Hello, nice to be with you again. Today in this Metropolitan Discipline Inception lectures, we are going to look at how to put all these things together. We have seen the complexity of the metropolis. Even if it's simple, it has some complexity within it. So the way of putting all this into practice, we call that Metropolitan workshops, but it's putting the brains of the metropolis together, so we call that Metropolitan Brainshops. We have seen how you make a strategic planning of a metropolis through words or figures, putting all together economy, social, environmental, governance, and so on, to see what the metropolis' role in the global markets and in the global concert of metropolis has to play. And then we have the more physical, structural approach to that planning of the metropolis with the regulatory level, which is the municipal level of the metropolitan digit. So we have this genoma, which is how the metropolis works in the economic and social setting, and we have the specific area of the physical development, the physical environment, with the ecological, environmental, natural, then the artificial one, the urban one, with transport, housing, productive activities and social facilities. So we put all that together in what we call the Brainshops, the Metropolitan Brainshops. It's a week's work of 48 of the institutions that are decision makers of the metropolis. The municipalities, the ministries, transport, housing, environment ministries, and the different institutions, Chamber of Commerce, Business Confederation, unions, community leaders, and so on. Altogether, 48 of them, decision makers of metropolis, for a week in a room working together to define the strategic future of the metropolis and the structural future of the metropolis. So the first day we deal with the metropolitan genoma. We discuss economic, social, and so on. What is the role of that metropolis in the world? For instance, in Mumbai, the role of Mumbai in the world, what they want to be, is the capital of the Indian Ocean from Cape Town to Saigon. No? And then the second day, we go into what do we need to reach that goal? What are the elements that the metropolis has to have to be able to play that role of strategic role of the first day? So those elements are, for instance, again in Mumbai, there are many metropolises we have done this, but to give an example specific, Mumbai, they need an airport that will be able to play that hub of the Indian Ocean, and then they need an airport of 6 runways at least, with 100 and 150 million passengers, and now they only have an airport with 1 runway. So we realize second day what are the elements that are needed to fulfill the role that was decided the first day, and that is in the environment, that is grey infrastructure, transport, that is housing, that is economic activities, industrial areas, and so on, and social facilities, hospitals, universities, and so on. So once the 12 main projects of the metropolis have been decided at the end of the second day, we have the different 48 decision makers of metropolis get into groups of 4 to develop each of those 12 projects with the help of PhD students of the universities that provide the logistic backing for writing and drawing those projects. And those projects have to be set up in a framework of planning, in a framework of engineering, in a framework of finance, how to finance those projects, and in a framework of governance. And when we talk about governance of those projects, it's not only what are the phases of approval of those projects, it's as well how we get together the public and the private sector in such a way that they have a consensus of the need of those projects, and you don't have anyone that will suffer from them and then will try to veto and to avoid having that project made. You have to make the benefits of all, and you have to share those benefits. And so we developed these projects during 3 days, and the 6th day, the Saturday morning, they are presented to the public in such a way that the public empowers themselves with those projects and realize that that's the way forward for the metropolis. So you have the decision makers, the institutions. Nothing is formally approved. It's all a matter of consensus. So not only you are building up the consensus of the projects, you are as well building up a consensus among institutions which have very powerful governance tools because all these people, they know each other for a lot of time dealing with urgency matters, but they have never been together thinking about the long-term future of the metropolis. So the outcome of this week is extremely important and has enormous benefits. If you want to see, for instance, what was the outcome in Mumbai or in Santo Domingo or in Uganda or in many of those Brainshops we had done, we just have to put in Google Pedro Biotti's Brainshops and you will have the list, and you can download those projects from all these metropolis. So up to you, and you even have a video that will show you how that Brainshop works. No? This is an example of the 12 projects developed in Santo Domingo. We did that Metropolitan Brainshop in February 2017, and you have the different projects that obviously are in the gray infrastructures, the roads and the trains. It was the first time in Santo Domingo that the train network was discussed openly, and they became aware of the gray infrastructure network of trains, commuter trains, to build up the future of the metropolis. No? You have the green spaces, the network of green with the different levels of green. You have the housing, not only the location of the housing and social affordability of those housing, but as well how to finance a project on the finance of those housings, where to locate economic activities depending on the typology, industry, commerce, offices, and so on. Social facilities, the network of hospitals, the network of universities, and all these aspects have been looked at in those projects, and you can download them and you can have a look at them. This is an example of the process of the Brainshop. We are all together within a room with 12 tables where these decision makers discuss, and they all see what the transport guy is doing, the environment guy, the housing guy. So it's all coordinated. It's like making a strategic plan in 1 week. Obviously not with all the data. Well, the people which are decision makers have the data. So it's a more of a Delphi approach rather than a technical approach to strategic planning. So you really put together all that, and you have in 1 week the way forward for that metropolis to fulfill the role they have to play. More of those meetings and so on. So for instance, in Mumbai, we were able to see what is the main structure of Mumbai, the network that Mumbai has to foster to have that kind of metropolitan vision. We saw that Mumbai is going through an historical phase. In 1947, they jump across the bay to make Navi Mumbai, and now they are saturated, they are congested, and now they have to realize, and we did that through the Brainshop, to jump again in 2016-17, to jump again to a new phase of growth articulated around a network that really metropolitan mental map, acupuncture chart, as we have seen in previous ones. Then you go into the green infrastructure, the gray infrastructure, how you relate that together, what are the projects which are necessary to reach that objective, housing, TODs, and so on and so on. You can download that from the webpage. We have done that already in many metropolis, working with institutions like the Inter-American Development Bank, the European Union, UN Habitat, the Agence Française de Développement, ADB, and so on. And in many metropolis like Guatemala, like Kampala, like Ahmedabad, like Bangkok, and so on and so on. I'm not going to extend that, in many countries. So it's really something which is working very well, and metropolis understand the benefits of the consensus achieved among institutions, so it's governance and the projects. And you remember that we say that you cannot have a project independent from the governments, because if you do, you will have a hammer in one hand and the screw in the other, and that doesn't work. You really must have a nail and a hammer to be able to do that. These are the places we have already built up those workshops, those Brainshops, and we can discuss, if you want to, the benefits of that if you want, and you can download that from the web page. So it's really putting the brains of a metropolis together to find out what is the future and what are the projects that metropolis wants to develop. Next time we are going to look at the different cultures of metropolitan planning around the world, and these presentations, you can download them from the links that you see in this webpage. Thank you.